I lead solutions architecture for AWS for Sub-Saharan Africa, and Kubus and I have had a long-standing relationship as us as AWS have supported Time Bank in their journey to innovate and operate at scale and launch in new geographies. This is the third year that Kubus and I are talking together. We did I think 2023 we did a presentation. 2024 we did a fireside chat like this that was very popular. We took some live questions, which we will also do towards the end of the session. And we got some really good feedback. So we're back this year to look at what Time is doing, how they're innovating, and I think importantly, Kubus, as you're expanding, we will also look at how you're managing operations and incorporating new stuff into what you do every day. So welcome.
Thank you very much. Thanks for having me. Thanks for coming to listen. I know this is the graveyard after lunch, so thank you. Yes, quite interesting times. If you've known since last year, I spoke, quite a few things happened. Except our two banks that we've got a merchant cash advance business in Indonesia and Hong Kong that's gone live. We've also been nominated under Time magazine as one of the top 100 most influential companies. We've been nominated as a South Africa's unicorn with all the funding that we got in our last fundraising. So yes, it's an interesting times for us, and we're growing. We've got shy of 19 million customers between our two banks at the moment, majority in South Africa, and going strong.
Yeah. So last year when we started looking at your journey, we said your first bank took you around like 29 months or so.
The first bank was about 3 years to actually build.
3 years to build.
Yeah. The second bank was about 12 to 13 months. And now we actually, with the cash advance businesses, we're sitting at around about 4 months to build a business. Like that, if we do a fully fledged bank, we believe we can do it in approximately 6 months.
Wow, so you can build a full bank in 6 months?
In 6 months, for all the basic products, yes.
Okay. So how has the way that you think about innovation and operations changed as you've moved from a more traditional architecture with all your learnings onto what you shared with us last year being a more modern architecture built on serverless, built on new architecture principles? How has that changed?
So we're still going ahead with all the serverless, and I mean, converting whatever we've got in from an EC2 environment to your ECS Fargates and your Lambdas and all the other serverless products that AWS is offering. So there's quite a few that matured. If we look at API Gateway, if we look at Nito and stuff like those, it's actually quite mature now and can actually be used commercially with high volumes of traffic going through there. But one of the things that we did do is we actually created a project multi-X, which is actually one-to-many. And what we've got is we actually brought our source code in, and we say, okay, let's have a source code where you've got 80+% of the source code is actually common to everybody in all the different banks. So now when you deploy, you can actually deploy everything, and we use products to actually switch on features on these different banks. So if you look at your smart app, that if you could have seen it, you'll have the different bank skins in there, you'll have all of the other products in there, you just can't use it. And as it comes available, it will be for you. That's the one thing that we've done, is it also help you consolidate engineering teams. So where you had two for the Philippines, and you had 2 teams to look after the product for South Africa for Time Bank, you've now got maybe 3 teams or 2 teams that actually looks after the product across board, which actually helps you as well. So we did not opt for actually becoming a SaaS, because that's a bit difficult sometimes with the banks, and also with our diverse regions that we've got, because you do tend to have latencies and stuff like that. So, but what we did is we've got central repository, we've got 1 or 2 functionalities that we actually do centrally. We've decided on using Frankfurt as our central region, because our latencies between Asia and between South Africa is the same from Frankfurt, and it's actually usable. So what we do is we use AWS as a backbone quite extensively. AWS has launched a hosted zone, or a local zone in Manila, for instance. So now you can jump on there. You don't have to go via VPN to Singapore to actually get to your work. To your workload. So you can jump on there, you can go via the backbone of AWS right through to Frankfurt. So that does help a lot. Yeah.
So there's a few things you mentioned that I want to touch on. One is you operate quite a complex like geographic infrastructure because you're using local zones, and if you don't know, local zone it's not the same scale as a region. Local zone is meant to be in metro areas so that you can get lower latency to specific services, but effectively it's core compute, storage, networking. You don't have things like RDS in there. And
No.
Yeah. How do you manage? How do you use the local zone versus using a region that has the full set of service offerings?
So your workload sits in the region, but because what we build at the moment, we don't have a data center in country. We don't have any infrastructure in country. Absolutely nothing. So the local zone give us a connectivity. If you want to use OpenVPN, you can actually connect to the local zone there. You can actually use your direct connect to the local zone there. The moment you do that, you've actually got a transport layer that's actually much more trustable and actually more controlled. If you look at your latencies and everything else. So it's a much more stable environment. So you use literally the edge to actually do that. But don't put your critical workloads in a local zone because, I mean, you've got a single zone, so it's extension of your 3 zones that you've got in Singapore. That's now the 4th zone, actually, for instance, in Manila. But, I mean, it's actually very, very, very useful. I think you guys are going to put launch a local zone in Joburg as well at one point.
Yeah,
yeah,
we have Johannesburg on the roadmap. The next one launching in sub-Saharan Africa is in Nairobi next year. So that will launch, and like you said, it's direct connectivity, so high speed SLA-backed connectivity from a region like Manila or like Nairobi to an AWS region like Cape Town or in your case Frankfurt. So that's really good because you've then adopted your architecture to use the AWS backbone to get faster access to the AWS region. So very specific use instead of like you don't have the like the data residency type requirements to get around. Okay.
I mean, you've got regulations and all sorts of things around that. So and you've got your RPO and TPO and everything else, so that you need to adhere to. The other thing that helps a lot is with your transit gateway at the moment, because transit gateway has done quite a bit of advances. So now you can actually use transit gateway to really route the traffic through without building infrastructures and hop from one instance to another or reverse proxies, etc., etc. So that helps a lot.
So using transit gateway to simplify your network.
Simplify the network, yeah.
So one of the things you spoke about is having like a core code base, and then you built like, from there, for each bank you've built the sort of individual country layer or the additional components for each bank.
Yeah.
Running that core code base with a fairly large team, how many engineers are you up to now?
Oh, about over 700 engineers at the moment.
So my question is, if you're taking that approach and you're having almost a bigger code base and driving effectively efficiency in launching the next bank, how does that influence or constrain innovation? Because you've got now a very big set of services and applications to have to maintain, and then you're sort of adapting them to each country, but you almost have like a central code base. So
but your central repository. So innovation, we drive a lot. I mean, so the people are very much free to actually be creative and come up with ideas. And because of the way that we actually structured, we can facilitate that. I mean, our structure with our teams are that they do require them to spend a certain amount of their time in the sandboxes, innovating, playing with AI, which everybody is AI, so everybody plays with AI at the moment. And try things out, and that helps us. I mean, our game days actually brought quite a few things to the market and ways of actually improve certain of the services that we actually use. So it's a culture. You have to have a culture of innovation. You have to have a culture of observability. You have to have a culture of security. All of those things is a culture that you breed, and we are quite strong on that culture. And how you train people with the guardrails that you put in place. So we did a lot of work on that in the last say 9 months, to actually give the people that freedom that they can't play without breaking things. And because you do have a structure, we're unfortunately not a gaming company, but we're a bank, doing banking software. So your guardrail is important. Your whole template structure, your your pipelines, everything that you do is controlled, but you got freedom to actually play as well.
Okay, well, I do want to get to the point around like operations and understand how you're scaling that as you scale your business. But because we're talking about innovation and development, the use of like generative AI tooling, we've seen like Q Developer, that kind of stuff. How are you introducing that or using that in how you currently build in your engineering force?
So I mean that's a big, a big focus for us at the moment. But I mean we've actually subscribed to Q Developer now, and the licenses are growing. Villa must be happy about that. But so we're using Bedrock, we're using Claude via Bedrock, we're using Claude Code as well. So pipelines as well, we're actually automating a lot. On the cyber side, we're doing a lot of risk management, checking versions of code, checking for vulnerabilities, etc., keeping your documentation. For instance, you can run your Bedrock to compare different versions of code, and you can actually take that, go into Q, and actually write into Atlassian your update of your documentation. And those type of stuff speeds it up. It actually takes that mundane tasks from people that actually don't like to do it away, and they can focus on something more interesting and more innovative.
Okay, and have you seen a change in like team culture around using the dev tools? Is there anything stopping teams from adopting?
Yeah, I think first people are very scared that these AI animals are going to take their jobs, and then they actually start embracing it and see how much better it works. They can do another check for themselves. I mean, so the people are adopting it at a vast rate. You cannot believe it, and embracing the fact that we actually give them. So we were quite open, and we actually allowed people to use a variety of tools. And we are now at the phase where we actually say, okay, which are the best tools to use? And we're actually busy closing that down, get the enterprise versions, do proper subscriptions and those things. But you have to play. It's very difficult. I just come from a call earlier this morning. You don't know what you don't know until you've actually implemented. So with all of these tools, it's actually, you play with it, you find the niche for it, you see what's the adoption rate, and then you can actually contract. You can't do that up front.
Yeah.
So
tell us a little more. What sort of challenges have you encountered on your journey? It may be useful to people watching just to understand what they may be in for as they start adopting like Q Developer, generative AI tools into the dev cycle.
Well, I mean, to me, it's always falling back to the cyber side of it, the cyber and the FinOps side, because that's my worlds. So the one thing is, please, you have to put some guardrails in place that you don't break the bank, literally break the bank. So, because it can be very expensive. If you got a product that's actually consumption-based, people don't realize if they make a mistake what it can cost you. Okay? So be very careful and manage that. Find a way to manage it. And there are ways to manage it, and so on. So that's one big thing to look at. The other thing is, how do I secure this animal? We're always worried about how's people going to break in, but now we sit with these tools that are going to break out and take our data with it. So that's a big problem. So you have to start thinking differently about how you apply your cyber, how you apply guardrails in cyber, and what is becoming a standard now, so that you actually block these things. I mean, from happening to create a safe environment, a safe playpen. It's to me a baby. You put him in a little playpen because he can't break out and break things and break himself. So that's exactly what you're trying to do there. Put those guardrails in place and use the basic tools that we've got. We've got the cloud, we've got CloudTrail, we've got GuardDuty, we've got Config, we've got all of these other animals that's sitting there in services, and you can take that and you can really build something that can notify you. You can jump on it. You can auto remediate. I mean, that comes back to automation. That comes back to AI. That platforms you need to get ready before you let people loose. So that's the two things I would focus on.
Okay. But it sounds like it's still early days and you're going to learn more as you go. And
to be honest, we've done quite a few things, but yes, I mean, it's now growing. I think it's becoming mature. I've even seen yesterday with the exec track as well. The conversations are different. The conversations is not just AI. The conversations is now, this is my use case for AI. This is the real application. This is how I can actually add value to my business. A year ago, when I was here, everybody was talking about this thing that they did not really know what is going to happen to it, really. So you can see it's busy maturing.
Yeah, and of course the models are getting better all the time.
Absolutely.
The tooling, even if we look at
Absolutely.
things like Bedrock, we've got Agent Core, we've got all of the agentic AI support. That wasn't there a year ago.
No, absolutely.
So the tooling is getting
maturing
better all
and
the time.
maturing every day.
So while you're innovating at pace, you're developing new offerings in the corporate space and in the retail banking space. As you create new features, new services, you have to operate them, like you said, measure the cost. Cost is super important when you're running a consumption-based business, which your retail business is. How are you managing this from an operation? And you said FinOps as well, which is very important when you run through consumption. How has that evolved, and how are you managing that at the moment?
So we've got you design it, you build it, you own it type scenario. So the guys that actually did design and build it, they own it. So they know what they've actually done. So it's easier for them to actually manage the environments operationally when there's something happening. We've got our teams that actually, is our first line that will pick it up. We've got a huge investment in observability for the last 5 years now, which we actually use, and that actually help us as well to make sure that where we get teething problems with latencies, with certain services not being stable, with load, because we're still very much in an environment where we grow. So sometimes you actually grow into it to your own detriment. But that's again where cloud comes into me, because as I said to Willem as well, to me cloud's one thing, and that is I can power myself out of 90% of the problems that we've got. And for that moment, and you can always go back and fix it. So, because it's not an exact science. The only thing when I size something at the moment, I know it's wrong. That's the only thing I'm certain of.
You go and refine as you go.
And then also team maturity, to the sense that from a FinOps point of view, teams need to understand that they don't just look at what the service is costing. They must understand what the growth of the adoption is going to be, that they can see where am I going to go with the service and what's the cost going to be in 6 months or a year's time projected. Because a lot of people look at something that's quite nice now and looks quite cheap, and then you actually break the bank again in a year's time from now when it's really adopted. So you have to have that sort of understanding and a focus to that. And you can have that without it becomes second nature after a while, you build with that in mind.
So the finance side, I get, like the FinOps, the right sizing, the optimizing for performance and for cost. I'm quite interested in how you're doing governance and security and just the operation side at scale, because you've got quite a diversified geographic footprint, different banks, different needs. I'm always keen to hear from our customers. What are you using in terms of like tooling, AWS tooling, third-party tooling? How are you managing that environment?
It's a nightmare. No, so with this multi-X, we've actually embarked on actually standardizing. So what it gives you now is, if you've got your cyber standards, you've got a minimum standard for each of the banks, and that you have to comply to. You've got a standard on the governance side as well. I mean, so AWS with the audit manager that they've got the track now that we're busy looking at for your audit academy, which looks quite interesting. I'm just going through audits now again and again and again. So, to actually start taking that and actually get that platform, get the profiles of what auditors want, get a better understanding of that, and make it easier for auditors to actually access. So with the governance, we are SOC 2 compliant from a Time-X point of view. We've got a tool that we actually use for the SOC 2. So those type of things is actually helping us to actually just get that governance to the point where it's actually manageable. Standardization is standardization. That's the best. That's the only way you can do it.
So standardization in terms of like the base architecture?
The base architecture, your guardrails, your documentation, your compliance, all of those things need to be some sort of a standard that you get. The more you can never do it 100%, but you can at least do 80% of that. And that helps you to actually, it makes it easier and faster.
Okay. And from an operations perspective, What are you using over and above the like AWS native services? Give us an idea of what. Like I would like to understand where you had a specific need that you had to go and look for something like additional products or
observability.
Yeah.
We use Datadog
Okay.
quite extensively. We made the decision 5 years ago to do that. We've got quite a huge investment in Datadog, and it actually does cover all our areas that we need. It's quite a mature product. Then we've got, for instance, we use Launch Darkly for actually our toggles on our app. We use products like Drata for our SOC 2 compliance.
Okay.
You know, those things. We use HiBob for a HR system and so on. We're actually standardizing on that as well. So we're actually standardizing the whole group. We're busy building a single AD for the group.
Okay.
Where each bank will have its identity, but you'll have one forest, and you've got your identity with an alias and intra-IDs, etc. But it's actually because of the way that you want to interact. You want to share data still. You want to actually, you know, if you get on a Teams call now, it's half of the people are guests, the other half is external, etc. And you can't share data. It's you know, that's just the basic thing. The products, we went onto a Confluence Enterprise, went onto Slack Enterprise. So those things allows us to have multiple identity providers, you know, to actually integrate everything nice together.
Okay. And what did you find like the biggest challenge going from your first bank to your second bank, and then to your third bank, as your operations had to scale and you adopted different architectures? What did you find challenging along the way from an operations perspective?
Well, they are so different because the first bank was very much half lift and shift and then rebuilt. The second bank was iteration 2, but more iteration 3 of the AWS services.
Yeah.
So they've got all their different challenges. I think in the first bank, it was basically cost. Because if you lift and shift, it's expensive. It's really expensive. And we had to spend a lot of time on getting that right. We also had to spend a lot of time getting the culture right. Because people, I mean, 6-7 years ago, if you're in cloud, you still got the thought process of a data center. You've got it, you can run it, you know, if you've already paid for it. Now you run it and you don't need it anymore. You need to switch it off and clean it up. Otherwise, you do pay for it. So those type of stuff was quite a culture thing that you need to get people to think about. The other thing was then when you move to Bank 2, so you've got those learnings, and now it's more serverless, you know, getting people to understand. I mean, getting an auditor to understand in those days that you've got Aurora, and when they do DR testing, they want you to switch off one of the availability zones, and you explain that, but you can't switch it off. That's some tricky conversations to have. So, but I think it is just maturity and grow. It's just the adoption of a mindset of that. We were lucky because we put a lot of new people in that was easy and it was really growing. They wanted to grow. They wanted to adapt. They wanted to be part of this journey, which made it workable. I don't know if I answer your question really, but
yeah, I think
it's a difficult question actually.
It is a difficult question, I think, because you sometimes forget the pain you had at different points because you've got
luckily
past them.
Otherwise, you'll never sleep again.
You do. And I know from working with you that you've introduced a lot of automation and lots of different checks in the whole process. But you had to go through a learning curve to get there to understand what you needed to do.
Yeah, you have to. Yeah, it's trial and error. I mean, you also learn that you don't want to just grab any product out there and put it into your environment. So I believe thoroughly use what you've got natively first, and when that runs out, the capability, then you actually start looking at something outside, because people think it's easy to get another product out there, but it's the same amount of effort that you need to put in. By buying a product, it doesn't fix your problem. You have to actually have the people, you have to train them, you have to make sure that they actually understand it. And then you might sit with a product that actually, it doesn't change at the rate that AWS is changing features and adopting, especially with the rate that AWS is growing at the moment. So the features and services. It's interesting. I was looking at some of the audits, the services that we use, and I saw 3 years ago we used 26 of the services or something, and at the moment we're using about 100 services from AWS. Should have got a bill, which is quite a bit of a different view.
So I think that's AWS gives you, we always say we have the breadth and depth of services. So pretty much every application that you want to build, any type of solution you can build, but you've got to know how you want to build it. And now more than ever, there are lots and lots of options.
Oh, absolutely.
And the only way you can really understand is by experimenting and understanding what you need, and then working with AWS or other partners who have the experience and can guide a little bit, and then you still need to experiment and figure out how you're going to use it in your environment. Just before, if anyone has a question in the audience here live, you can raise your hand and we will come with a mic to you. But while we're waiting for anyone to get the courage to ask a question, just that kind of culture of experimentation requires a certain set of skills and to foster that kind of learning in the environment. How are you doing that with 400 to 700 engineers? That's a lot of people to keep on that virtuous cycle of learning and adopting.
I think you start off by choosing the right people. Because remember, you need to get. So we're not a company with a very big hierarchy that's there. So it's a very much flat, self-starter, self-learner, self-motivator. So if you got those people, the right people, then you actually do get these people to actually want to do it, and then you can facilitate them. It's not like chasing somebody to do things.
Okay.
Okay.
The question.
Hi.
I've got a question. Can you hear me? Hi. Okay, there we go. Hi, guys. So my question is, I heard you say that you guys...
Do you want to come closer? They can hear you online, but we can't. We don't have headphones.
Okay, so my question is, you mentioned that you are a warehouse in Europe, in Frankfurt, right?
Yeah.
Do you guys have local footprint? From what I heard, not. Is there a reason for that?
Okay, so our original bank was built in Ireland. And... when we built in Ireland, that was the region. It was approved by Well, we suggested that. At that stage, South Africa wasn't there. We've built small amounts of services in South Africa, but to lift everything and just move it is quite difficult. And there's still some constraints in South Africa on the growth path on services. One of the services we've moved back to Ireland, because of purely the fact that our Aurora instances needed more compute, needed more memory, and it was actually cheaper to run it from there to run it from here, and it wasn't available here. So some of the edge stuff we do run here, all the edge stuff we do run here, but we still tend to keep the workload together in Ireland. And I believe at one point it will be worth to move, but at the moment not yet, and that will be a big move for us to actually do all of those, So yeah, because if you work with card, you've got such a latency that you have to have certain things here, but you can't move your database from your front end and that type of stuff, so you have to keep it together. Okay,
so just to add to that, we've been looking at AWS. We've been working hard, especially here in South Africa, to bring more and more of the services that we need. So understanding needs of Cobus here for time, as well as our other customers. We're improving the service offering across the board, across the world as well. That process has taken a bit of time, but we're always adding more services into the region.
Absolutely.
So anytime you need something, do let me know. But there is a reality that not all services from AWS are available in all of the regions globally, but the vision is to have, in the fullness of time, that equality of the most important services available wherever we need it. That said, we are in kind of the situation where the global supply chain means that not all instance sizes, instance families have availability for everywhere in the world.
Yeah.
And sometimes we do need to understand from our customers what's needed and bring that specifically there. Do we have any other questions? No more questions. Kobus, is there anything else that you think, like anyone building a business or looking to scale and innovate, not necessarily multi-country that you have, but looking to scale and innovate on AWS? Do you have any advice for them?
Yes, I think firstly, get closer to your AWS as a partner. Make it a true partner in your business, and I think that was one of the successes that we have. I mean, our account team sits there. I mean, we don't actually distinguish between AWS and our own people when we actually get together, because they are our true partners. I mean, and don't be half in. Jump in and do it, because otherwise you're not getting the benefit of your cloud provider. People are scared to use ECS and Fargate because it locks you in. Well, that's the benefit that it gives you. So lock yourself in then, but just choose your partner and go for it. Don't sit and hold back. I mean, I've seen so many people, and I've spoken to so many people that they build a portion of their business in the cloud and another portion on-prem, and then it's chaos because there's always some latencies, some integration problems. As much as they say all clouds talk to each other, it's not true. You've got problems. So you're always going to have problems. So embrace it and actually do it. And cloud is cheap if you use it right. People are expensive. Cloud is cheap because use the fact that you can switch off environments. Our environments, so we run dev, SIT, and user acceptance testing, and then we run production. Out of that, our 3 non-production environments is not more than 30% of our total spend, because we stop automatically. We run smaller instances. We scale when we require. And that gives you the ability as a small business especially to actually start using the environments, test, play with the stuff, and really be innovative with your business. And also, you make AWS crazy. They always give you something, so let them support your business.
I always say you should ask AWS for anything, even if you think we can't do it. We'll find a way to make it happen. If it's funding, ask the account manager. He's sitting right here, so he owes you more funding now because of this. But even expertise, even if it's stuff that we're not supposed to have, even if it's like specific skills that you would normally see on a competitor or third-party product, we may have the ability to support you in that.
Use your TAMs, use your architects that AWS give you. They're there for a reason. So they're not there to abuse. They're not there to be your developer or your engineer, but they're there to be used and use their knowledge of their customers. Use what they've got. They are people that's been in the industry for many years, so they can help you. Just have a listen to what they say to you and let them understand. Make them part of your business. That's the main thing.
A point that you touched on earlier, like that multi-cloud approach, we see many organizations using it, and we've seen the difficulty in doing that. You've got not just one set of environments to secure and govern and manage. You've now got multiple.
Exactly, multiple skills. It's becoming more expensive to have those skills, to really operate with it.
Have you looked at using multi-cloud for anything and decided not to?
You do have some stuff that's historically that you inherit that you want to die one day, but else than that you... I'd rather not speak about it. So, but I might have a big target on my back. But yeah. So I think we actually came to a point where we say very quickly in our journey that you're either in or not. So don't do it halfway. So use the right stuff. You can always use there's always security products. There's always other things out there that you can actually add on top of your cloud journey, whichever cloud you use. But, try and use the services that they've got. And the other thing is also, marketplace. People don't speak much about marketplace. Now, we do a lot of business through marketplace because for those that's got enterprise agreements, your PPA, your marketplace count towards that. If it's running on AWS, the application run on AWS platform, it makes it easier to procure and it makes it easier to manage. if you go through Marketplace. It's just such a pleasure to do that. And I've challenged so many people to do that. And they always tell you no, they can't, and then eventually 3 weeks later they do. Because you can, actually. So it's just make it simple.
Give us some examples of some of the things that you're getting off the Marketplace.
Oh, I mean, that's all products that I'm naming now. But I mean, I do my Datadog through Marketplace. I do Databricks through Marketplace. I do Splunk through Marketplace. I do Strata through Marketplace. I do LaunchDarkly. I do Atlassian. I do
pretty much everything
through Marketplace. You know, and moving stuff to Marketplace because it's just simpler to do it.
Does it make your engineering simpler as well, or just the procurement?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there's a lot of PS that we do. Okay. Marketplace as well. I mean, if you think about somebody like Genesis, I mean, we've done them through Marketplace. We've actually done their PS, Genesis themselves, their PS through Marketplace, because it's easier to do that. I mean, so for us, it's easier to do that.
The easier contracting mechanism.
Much easier contracting
mechanism. Sometimes better terms and that kind of stuff.
Yeah, exactly. So, So don't forget about Marketplace, please, guys.
If there are no more questions in the audience, I would just like you to give us very briefly in a minute or two, like what's next for you? Where are you going in terms of time?
Us as time. We are looking at our next banks in most probably Asia. Got a short list. That will be out there one of these days, and then to build that, we're actually building more and more of our merchant cash advance businesses, and then we're continuing on our journey with our multi-X to actually get more and more products into the banks that's actually on the single code base. I mean, people don't realize, but we've changed. We went friends and family yesterday with the Smart app. I mean, it's a non-event because it's just happening. So yes, we're pushing very hard to get that platform, that centralized platform, that standard out there, because that's going to determine at the end of the day, how you manage cost, how you manage your business, and then the AI road. I mean, we're doing all sorts of really wonderful things that we're interested in with AI and experimenting at the moment with AI. So yes, we're there. It's a very, very exciting journey. We've spent a lot of time on the way of work this year, so we keep on doing that as well. So it's a lot of internally focused from an engineering point of view, but then that will enable us to do faster and more stable businesses out there that we'll build.
Because I've been a TimeBank customer from a very long time. Maybe I don't know if it was before or after I met you, but every time I go into the app, it feels like there's something new, something different, something
always,
changed.
Always.
I'm sure you have like deployments on like a daily basis, and
we've got sometimes about 400 deployments a month, 400 plus deployments a month. So we don't have freezes. We do continuous deployment. I mean, I've looked at some stats today and they were scary. I don't even want to quote them. But the amount of deployments, and what was more scary is the 100% success rate that was behind that. I still want to query that because I can't believe it. But I mean, it's really, really, we do a lot. But so our philosophy is you do it much smaller deployments at a much shorter frequency, so that you can, or higher frequency, so that you can actually, you give the benefit to the client, and he doesn't have to live for 3 months with this issue, and then only you do it, and then you break half of the bank, and then all of those type of things. Now you fix it, you break it, you fix it, type thing. So it's quick. Sometimes people didn't even know it broke and it was fixed already. So
Don't you think that doesn't seem to work on your app? For me, is that lots of functionality I don't seem to win when I take it. But otherwise,
also, I've got the same problem. I've looked at it again this morning.
I think I'll log a ticket for you. But
I think so. No, absolutely. So, maybe if you get enough tickets, somebody will do something.
Maybe. I think
it's like an AWS feature request. Feature request. You have to get really a lot of tickets to actually somebody do something about that.
We'll speak to Lee about feature requests and get them working. But thank you very much. It's been a pleasure talking to you. I'm always excited to see where TimeBank is going and where we can collaborate more. If there are no other questions, I think we'll end there. Thank you very much.
Thanks very much.
Kubus Frey, everyone.
Thanks. Thanks very much.